My name is David Delgado. I work for the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, and JPL is a part of NASA. And I run a project called Imagine Mars. What we do in Imagine Mars is we get students to think about what it would be like to live on Mars in the future. And this really kind of gets them thinking really differently about life, about the type of community they want to live in. Because they have to really think about the environment of Mars and what they would do to live there and how would they solve the challenges of being there. But before they do all of that, they have to think about where they live here, now. What community are they in, and what do they like about it, and what would they change if they could? What we want to do is that it's not totally a science fiction type of world. Because, you know, here at JPL, we have the 2 rovers there exploring Mars right now. We have the new rover Curiosity launching next year. And so this is a very real place for us all. And we want to get the students working with the scientists and engineers to understand that Mars is a real place, to understand the reality of what this place is like. So that when they actually design there in that place, they're going to be thinking about the real characteristics of that planet. And so it becomes a real design project for them. A lot of my day, I wear a lot of hats. We have a sort of a small team for the Imagine Mars team. I also work for Mars Public Engagement. So the idea of what we do for Mars Public Engagement is to share the story of Mars with the public. I started sort of in the social sciences. I studied anthropology and always had sort of a foot in the art world. I had a real love for that and design. And I ended up going to a design school, Art Center College of Design. And after that, I worked as an art director for a little while. But I always had a real part of me, my heart, was in thinking about sciences and thinking about how art and science, that sort of middle ground, how they work with each other. I think my inspiration for creativity is really trying to do something new. When I see people who are trying to push the limits on doing something that nobody has ever seen before, that really gets me excited, you know. And I think that's why what excites me about the Imagine Mars project is we see these students who haven't really thought about the idea of design too much, you know. And here they are, they're asked to build this community on Mars. And they're sort of thrown into the design process without really knowing it. And they're asked to do something new, you know, and that is build this community. And a lot of the students never think about these things before. And what we see is the students really kind of blossoming. So the idea of them thinking creatively, them problem solving, the way that they go about working with each other in a group, and the types of solutions that they come up with is really interesting because for them it's a very, very new thing. And I think that spark of curiosity that comes from trying to embark on something very new was my inspiration. Because when it happened to me, that's what got me very interested. And when I see that spark happening with other students, that is what I like to see and I like to help them experience. Asking the students good questions and letting them have the freedom to go through experiences of failure and success. And I think the way to really kind of get to the area of success is going through moments of failure. I think a lot of times, especially with the students I work with, they're so afraid to take a chance because they don't want to fail. They don't want to feel like they've done something incorrectly. And what I always tell them is you have to fail quickly and fail often, because in order to get to that place where you can actually have that success or that goal that you're trying to achieve, you need to have a series of steps, and each one of those steps is actually it's like a moment of learning, which is a time when you didn't exactly do what you sought out to do. So that failure becomes the next step up the rung, you know, and that is what we want I want the students to be able to accept and to embrace. And I think that is something that really will allow the students to grow. Because, you know, I've seen it time and time again. If you stop at that first rung where you have a moment of failure, then you'll never get to the place that was your ultimate goal. would just say be bold and be brave, because there's a lot of challenges out there. There's a lot of hurdles, but I think ultimately, in the end, people really want to hear about what's inside you. They want to hear about, that's the most important thing. There's so many influences coming from the outside, but I think the most important thing is what's inside each individual student. And if they can be brave enough to express that, then that is what is going to be the most interesting thing that they can ever say.